If you're that guy and you just came off a draw, I think rematching will be the most competitive thing to do as an athlete. With the Jake Paul situation, is like it's a money grab fight.
Was in a bit of a hole. And he gets an opportunity to fight Jake Paul for $200 million or whatever. I don't mind it at all. As long as Gervonta Davis comes back to the world of boxing after he gets done with this, hey man, you got your money, no worries.
As the showdown between Jake Paul and Gervonta Davis draws near, both fighters are pushing themselves to the limit in training. Jake is focusing on maximizing his size and power, while Davis continues to refine his speed and knockout accuracy. With both camps locked in and committed, anticipation is building among fans eager to see how these contrasting styles will collide in one of the sport's most discussed matchups.
I don't get it.
Yeah. Yeah. This Santa Cruz out here to
Take down,
let it burn, baby. Let it burn. Mind over matter, son. Mind over matter.
This is the blues I'm
Ain't nobody doing no shit like this. Come in the desert. He trying to stay away from the desert. He come in the desert.
Shakur Stevenson weighed in on the wave of unusual boxing matchups, making it clear that not all of them hold the same value. He criticized fights like Jake Paul versus Gervonta Davis, saying they do little for the sport. However, he drew a distinction when it comes to potential exhibitions between legends such as Floyd Mayweather and Mike Tyson. In Stevenson's view, these men have already secured their legacies, and if they choose to step back into the spotlight for financial reasons, it shouldn't be considered damaging. Instead, he argued, such matchups give fans a sense of nostalgia and don't cheapen boxing in the way celebrity-style spectacles often do.
Bad for the sport of boxing.
I mean, I feel like in Floyd and Tyson's situation is different than Jake Paul and Buddy. I feel like with Floyd and Tyson, it's like, okay, y'all deserve it. Y'all legends, y'all paid homage, y'all did the most for the sport of boxing already. So you deserve a big payday and be cool. I'm cool with it. I like it. But with Jake and Buddy, I feel like Buddy is a participate in the sport of boxing right now. And he just came off a draw, his last fight. So if you're a real champion and top level guy that you say you are, which I think you are too. I think you're the truth. But if you're that guy and you just came off a draw, I think rematching will be the most competitive thing to do as an athlete. With the Jake Paul situation, is like it's a money grab fight. So to me, it's like some WWE shit.
Do you think it helps? Like, I mean, okay, so he gets this fight with Jake. His value goes up.
No, it doesn't.
You don't? It don't?
Not in the sport of boxing.
You don't think
it may.
The demand more because he's, you know, because when we looked at the was a Floyd and
just hypothetical. You know, we speak hypotheticals at time, right? You go in there and that big ass nigga knock him the fuck out. I'm just saying hypothetical. Go in there and knock Tank the fuck out.
That big ass nigga being Jake Paul.
Yes.
Okay, just
knock him the fuck out. Because he's bigger than him.
Yeah.
For one. By chance, it is a fight.
I think the thing is with Buddy and Jake fight, I feel like it's two sides of me with it. Because from a competitive aspect and me being the mentality that I got, I feel as though I probably would have done a rematch. But then from a business aspect, if I would have done the rematch and I did not win the fight, the Jake Paul fight will be a lot less money and a lot less lucrative. So,
you think so?
From a business aspect, I understand that anybody that with a business mind probably would have took that fight for as much money as it was. So I'm a realist. Like, I ain't going to just bash, bro.
No.
UFC President Dana White didn't hold back when addressing the proposed showdown between Jake Paul and Gervonta Davis. White argued that only a small number of fans are genuinely interested in the fight, though he admitted the matchup could benefit Davis. With recent controversies slowing his momentum, Davis received a lucrative offer from Paul at a vulnerable moment. White noted that while many ridicule the event, it could still provide Davis with both exposure and a financial boost. Surprisingly, he went even further, suggesting Paul might actually beat Davis. His reasoning wasn't about skill, but physicality. According to White, Paul's height, reach, and natural size would be difficult for the much smaller Davis to overcome, making the fight less about pure boxing ability and more about handling a major physical disadvantage.
To beat Gervonta Davis. This is not a fight that I'm excited for at all. I would rather have Gervonta Davis fighting in a real boxing match against the likes of Lamont Roach, Shakur Stevenson, Keyshawn Davis, Emmanuel Navarrete, anybody that is in the 135-pound division and around. That's where I want to see Gervonta Davis fight. However, we live in a world where everybody is trying to do things as big as possible. And the biggest fights possible right now, unfortunately for the sport of boxing, is an exhibition fight between Jake Paul and Gervonta Davis. So I do like it for this reason, though. I like it because it is allowing Gervonta Davis to have a fight that is going to be big and that the mainstream media is going to have to cover, the mainstream media outside the world of boxing. Gervonta Davis has been, without a doubt, blocked, having venues blocked, having fighters, having other promoters paying fighters away to go different directions from Gervonta Davis. So Gervonta Davis was in a bit of a hole. And he gets an opportunity to fight Jake Paul for $200 million or whatever. I don't mind it at all. As long as Gervonta Davis comes back to the world of boxing after he gets done with this, hey man, you got your money, no worries. But you gotta love Dana White having the audacity to pick Jake Paul in this fight.
Former world champion Pauli Malignaggi gave his perspective on the possibility of Terence Crawford facing Jake Paul. While acknowledging Crawford's elite skills and status as one of the most talented boxers of this era, Malignaggi warned that physical differences can sometimes outweigh technical mastery. He noted that history has often shown smaller champions struggling when moving too far up in weight. According to him, Jake Paul's natural size and raw power could pose real problems for Crawford, regardless of his superior skill. Malignaggi stressed that boxing is still a sport where strength, size, and durability play a critical role, and even a fighter as adaptable as Crawford could be at risk against such a large opponent.
Davis is more to lose because he's the bona fide world champion. I don't care if he's much smaller. I think Jake Paul has sort of plateaued as far as where his boxing is concerned. It's rather low level. Yeah. He's big, he's physical, he's strong, he can hit. So there is that risk. Davis, at lightweight, you're in a moment where it's too physical for you. You can clinch. Against the heavyweight, where you clinching? You ain't getting out of that corner just clinching anymore if you run out of space. You know what I mean? So it's interesting. But Davis, listen, there's a lot of talking points that I'm sure we'll get into when this gets closer to the fight. Davis can still punch at lightweight. Can he drop a heavyweight? There's a lot to gain there, right? If Davis knocks...
The answer is yes.
If Davis drops Jake on his ass, as much as Davis is the one with more to lose, it's still a highlight moment.
A visual that will stay forever.
Yeah. But if you get dropped, even if you're smaller, you're still a world champion, multiple weight classes. If you get dropped, what's the look? What's the feel? On the inside, as boxers, me and, Chris Algieri, the champ, even you, Jimmy, you have fight experience. So we know that the risk is a big guy that big hits you, you're probably going down if you're a small guy, if he hits you clean. So we know the risk, but how does it look to the public eye who don't understand that? You know what I mean? The public. So there is a lot to lose, though. There's a bit to gain. I wouldn't necessarily have an issue with this had Davis's career arc been one that benefited boxing. Davis was manufactured and put into a position where he's supposed to benefit boxing. And I don't think he has. I think he's hurt boxing. So by giving him this reward, that's my problem. Why are we watching this? Why don't you make him earn his spot that he still has?
Reports revealed that organizers had to change plans after the original venue refused to stage the highly promoted fight. Local authorities reportedly dismissed it as more of a circus than a serious sporting event and declined to approve it. The move surprised many since the first location was seen as perfect for drawing a massive crowd and strong revenue. Rather than cancel or postpone, promoters quickly secured a new site willing to host. While this ensured the fight would go ahead, the abrupt switch has sparked criticism. Detractors argue that if such a prestigious venue rejected it, the contest itself may lack true sporting credibility. The relocation has become a headline of its own, adding fuel to the ongoing debate over whether crossover bouts really belong in boxing.
5 pounds. Jake Paul is over 50 pounds heavier than Gervonta Tank Davis, and he's nearly a foot taller than Gervonta Tank Davis. So no sanction body wants to, and no commission wants to, should I say, I keep saying sanction body, no commission wants to sanction it. They don't want to be a part of it, as I told you guys. So they announced that the fight was going to take place November 14th in Atlanta at the State Farm Arena where the Atlanta Hawks play. And the Georgia Athletic Commission, he came out and he made a serious statement. And he let the world know that they falsely advertised this fight, okay, because no commission won't sanction it to be a real boxing match, let alone they're not even interested in allowing it to be an exhibition. Okay? They don't even want it to be, they don't even want to be responsible for an exhibition of this magnitude, right? So he comes out and he says, the commissioner, head of the Georgia Commission, he comes out, he says, quote, I believe it's in the public's interest to know because they've been promoting something they should not have been promoting. It's the dumbest thing I ever heard. It's a money grabber, and I'm not okay with that. So they telling him it's just for the money.
Retired champion Carl Froch weighed in, saying Jake Paul's boxing career is driven entirely by money. Froch argued that Paul isn't pursuing greatness in the ring, but instead seeks financial gain. He noted that Paul carefully chooses opponents based on publicity and revenue potential rather than the toughest challenges available. While Froch admitted this approach is smart from a marketing perspective, he insisted it stops Paul from earning genuine respect as a serious boxer.
Before, and there'll be people out there saying, oh, Carl Froch's talking about himself, he's after a payday. Listen, I'm not after a payday. I'm doing all right. There's no problems with my finances. But I'll take the fucking payday, of course I will. And I'll end Jake Paul with one punch. I'd go in there one-armed and beat this guy. He can't box. He's absolutely fucking useless, which we saw last night with Mike Tyson. Talking about Canelo Alvarez. I've not mentioned Canelo Alvarez because it's just laughable. Jake Paul, Canelo Alvarez, can you imagine? I mean, if Jake Paul fancies that and he jumps in the ring with him, I will pay homage to him because fair play, if he jumps in there with Canelo Alvarez, he'll get absolutely fucking destroyed and it will be fast and it will be messy and it will be bad for his health as well.
MMA veteran Nate Diaz brushed off the matchup entirely, refusing to even make a prediction. To him, the fight doesn't qualify as a real contest but instead as a pay-per-view spectacle. Diaz argued that boxing has leaned too far into these manufactured showcases, which he feels damages the sport's credibility. In his eyes, these bouts are motivated by money rather than competition, and for that reason, he refuses to take them seriously as sporting events.
Jake Paul versus Gervonta Davis. Does Davis have a chance?
Fuck no. Gervonta is a great boxer, but he ain't gonna be Jake Paul.
So you got Jake Paul by knockout, or?
No, I don't got anybody, but I don't think
He's just too small.
It just I don't want to beat up somebody that small. I don't want to, you know what I'm saying?
What do you think of the fight?
I don't want to lose to somebody that's, there's no point in the fight. It's a great fight, actually. I'm not hating on the fight, but I think my thoughts on it is let's watch and see what happens.
Ryan Garcia said that boxing is turning into WWE.
Yeah,
with that type of matchup. What do you agree? Last thing, White House card, like he said, you want Conor McGregor?
Yeah, but the whole thing's on WWE, so
right.
It's like, at least that's happening and getting something to talk about, something to watch, and I'm looking forward.
One of the most hotly debated factors in the potential clash between Jake Paul and Gervonta Davis is the massive difference in their size and physical makeup. Paul, who has fought bigger men before, naturally carries far more weight and enjoys clear advantages in height, reach, and overall build. Davis, meanwhile, is just 5 feet 5 inches and usually fights around 130 pounds, where his speed and knockout power make him a dangerous force. While he thrives against opponents his own size, facing someone as large and imposing as Paul raises real concerns. Could Davis's power hold up against a man with such a size advantage? Analysts argue he may struggle to close the distance without taking heavy punishment from Paul, who can use his frame to control the range. The debate boils down to whether Davis's skill and explosiveness can truly overcome such a dramatic physical disadvantage, or if the size gap makes the matchup more risky than realistic.
Jake Paul versus Tank Davis is actually happening. What the f is going on? I guess Tank is going broke because that's the only justifiable reason you ruin your legacy against a guy like Jake Paul. And yes, I do think Jake Paul is going to win. Tank Davis is a much better boxer and has crazy power, but he's 5'5", 130. That power is not going to carry over against someone who is 6'1", 210. And it's not like Jake is bad. Yes, his fights are boring. He says he's going to step in the ring and sleep his opponents, but the only people who end up sleeping are the audience. Mike Tyson fight. But at the end of the day, he's a big guy with power who's training boxing full time, and he has beaten some legitimate competition. Woodley, Nate Diaz, Anderson Silva, Mike Perry had a competitive fight with Tommy Fury. But it's crazy how particular Jake has to be when selecting his opponents. They have to have enough clout to be interesting, enough skill to be taken seriously as a threat, but at the same time have clear weaknesses and disadvantages that Jake and his team can exploit to win. Now that he's fighting an elite boxer, he has to fight someone 7 weight classes down. I mean, Tank could win if he makes Jake do a very aggressive weight cut, but I just don't see that happening. I got Jake by 3rd round TKO. He should put me on the co-main event and allow me to fight Francis Ngannou. That would be an easy first-round knockout for myself.
Both fans and analysts have voiced concern about how novelty matchups have taken over the spotlight in recent years. The rumored clash between Jake Paul and Davis is often cited as a prime example of this trend. Rather than showcasing meaningful bouts that decide champions or settle rivalries, promoters are leaning towards spectacles that blur the line between competition and entertainment. Critics argue this shift erodes boxing's traditions and leaves purists disappointed, as the sport becomes more about media buzz than highlighting elite talent.
So breaking news, Jake Paul will be taking on Tank Davis in an exhibition on November 15th in Atlanta, Georgia, live on Netflix. And this is crazy for multiple reasons. One, they have a huge size difference. Tank Davis, he's a lightweight, normally fights at 135 pounds. And Jake Paul, he's a cruiserweight, usually fights at 200 pounds. So there's a good 60 to 65 pound difference here. It could also mean that Tank Davis is no longer interested in competing for titles anymore and is cashing out of boxing. You know, there's been a lot of talks that Tank is nearing retirement this year, and he was supposed to rematch Lamar Roach after their first fight went to a draw. But instead of chasing the Roach rematch, instead he takes the Jake Paul fight for money. So maybe this is Tank's last, or one of his last fights. And same for Jake Paul. He just got ranked number 14 at cruiserweight after beating Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., so he's supposed to be fighting other ranked contenders or top guys at cruiserweight, but instead, he's taking a money fight. But I do expect these two to go after each other. Even though it is an exhibition, I don't think it'll just be some boring sparring match. I do think they'll try a decent amount. But Tank, obviously, is a lot more skilled. Jake, he has a lot more size. But you guys let me know who you got.
One analyst pointed out that the rise of the Paul brothers has always hinged on their ability to attract attention. He explained that Jake and Logan aren't bothered by criticism, since every bit of backlash only creates more buzz. Loved or hated, they keep themselves in the spotlight by setting up highly polarizing events. From this perspective, their opponent choices have less to do with boxing merit and more to do with generating headlines. Ultimately, their talent for staying relevant is what guarantees their ongoing presence in the sport, no matter what the purists think.
Blockbuster events. They don't look at them as sporting events. They look at them as spectacle. I mean, Logan's in the fucking WWE, for God's sake. That's the way they look at it. And that's the way Jake looks at these kind of events. He does, because he's fighting Gervonta Davis. And to any sports, hardcore, competition, morale, effort, legacy, hierarchy-minded sports person, none of it makes any sense. Because we go, well, no, Gervonta is not in Jake's weight class. What does that prove? We do sport to prove who's better at sport, not with inherent advantages or disadvantages or XYZ. Logan, and I guess Jake for that matter, look at these like, we want to get the most eyes possible regardless of what people say. And I think that Logan and Jake both believe this, because of the disadvantages we came into the sport with, if we are to do better than people expected, or if we're able to win or knock someone out, then we're better, which is not true because there's massive disadvantages on the other end. I would say that outweigh the disadvantages on their end, at least Jake's end. The way they market these things and act like if I beat Gervonta, I'm better, or if Logan was like, I beat Floyd and I'm the best boxer in the world, when Floyd wasn't the best boxer when Logan fought him, and also it was a 60-pound weight difference. Like, the way they categorize and narrative shape around it is the thing people get up.
Always hinged on their ability to attract attention. He explained that Jake and Logan aren't bothered by criticism, since every bit of backlash only creates more buzz. Loved or